Before I begin, just for frame of reference, I have about 312 hours on this game on Steam, but I've got a whole lot more in other vague and perhaps understandable ways if you use your intuition. I started playing this game around 2022. I played before Anomaly came out, so on and so forth. In my time playing Rimworld, I've never had to sit through a major update or DLC because I took such long breaks in between playing. And just recently, I had to go through the release of Odyssey, which at the time completely destroyed any motivation that I had to play the game for about a month. Now, this video will be mostly complaints, sort of organized into a few categories, but it's just my thoughts on the DLC and I guess the DLC release cycle. I'm not really into the Rimworld community, except for the fucking Fernie Discord, because I like the progression mod pack. I don't really know if what I'm saying is already an accepted narrative or if I'm just tripping over things that are fairly par for the course. So if any of the things that I'm about to say resonated with you or maybe made you confused of my ignorance, let me know in the comments so I can get your point of view. And just to say, I have a DLC and I still haven't gotten to the DLC. I'm playing a Desert Start right now and I haven't really interacted with any of the greater DLC elements. I don't have a grav ship, I haven't done the quests, whatever. This video will be more about, I guess, the more meta principles of releasing a DLC for Rimworld and less what content the DLC has. Both will get touched on, but I guess we'll start with, I think that the DLC and the grav ship upsets the non-existent travel progression. The biggest problem I have with the game's progression is that the DLC makes it feel off balanced. I guess metaphorically, we get spaceships and space travel before we have basic functioning vehicles. The world outside the colony is still fairly boring and can be easily ignored with little reason to travel outside home, especially not at a great distance where you'd have to sacrifice your colonists for a good amount of days where they could finally come home and contribute to the colony again. It's already just typically not very worth it to leave at all unless you've modded your game enough, but we're talking from a vanilla standpoint here. Normally in a game's sense of progression, I'd expect at least for this category, I'd expect a scale of travel. You know, we start out just walking, a real caravan, then we would have pack animals or carts or rudimentary transport, up to actual vehicles, then we can use the shuttles that are already present in the game. I would expect all of this to happen before we get actual like spaceships or grav ships or fucking whatever. With Odyssey, I'm expected to believe that the only means of transportation my colonists ever get interested in or could ever come to understand are one-time use, one-way transport rocket pods, and then we just jump straight to fucking spaceships. There's no in between. We can't handle visiting or raiding nearby colonies because of the obnoxious travel time. So instead of figuring out the shape of a wheel, we're gonna get Kim-fueled grav ships from some quest and start going to space stations and shit. That honestly just takes me out of it. There's no progression in this system at all. No technology. No. You have to do a quest to get an engine in the first place. You can't just build it at home. It doesn't need to be as deep as like vanilla expanded vehicles and have full on like mechanic fucking I don't know, but at least we should have a framework and understanding that it's possible. We know that we can do this from the mod existing. We know that vehicles can function in Rimworld, and for a DLC so based around exploration, that's already kind of, and I use this term loosely, stealing, quote unquote stealing, okay, I'm not saying literally, but for a DLC that's already taking aspects that are present in mods, I'm really surprised that they didn't want to introduce vehicles at the same time that we get a spaceship just to fix this kind of offhanded sense of travel progression. We get a DLC called Odyssey without any real means of seeing the world until we get to the fucking spaceship. I can't really wrap my head around believing that my colonists are going to figure out how to build and use a functional spaceship before grasping the basic concepts of a bike or a cart. Can we invent the fucking wheel before we're in space, please? I think that it fudges the progression awkwardly when there isn't progression to begin with. Like, instead of building up, we are skipping basically straight to the end and spending the rest of our time building the spaceship and being spaceship nomads. I mean, in a game where mechs and spaceships exist and we can both create and understand their function, can we not put four wheels on a platform with an engine? The actual world space still feels empty and dull, but we're gonna go to space and do space quests, and I don't know. There's just no basic system in place. Existing travel and caravanning, or quote unquote adventuring, is still fairly boring and not worth the initial risk or loss involved in potentially losing pawns or removing useful pawns from your base for extended periods of time. But instead of building on the travel system, caravanning, or the world map at all, we just get what is a chem fueled, powered, like fast travel button and moving base. I don't know. Adding new biomes and quests doesn't really fix the core issues with how boring caravanning is. And if anything, the DLC just doubles down on the problem by ignoring it entirely with the spaceship. Travel doesn't exist in this game, but we have a spaceship, and we have a spaceship before we have cars or a fucking boat or something. Is this as big of a problem as I'm making it out to be? Potentially no. Um, it could very well just come to be another facet of the game that I end up getting used to. But maybe we don't need an extensive travel system when 99% of the game's mechanics were built and designed around your colony staying in your colony. Maybe I'm a little disappointed that an actual like Odyssey DLC just doesn't introduce any kind of new progression, and we just get the spaceship and some fucking quests. Like, I don't know. That feels kind of weird. Feels kind of pointless. I much prefer DLC that build on the base game, improving and adding on to existing systems and series of progression, or adding new ones. And Odyssey doesn't seem to do either of that, even though it feels like it very easily could have. I feel like the resounding wants and desires of the player base typically bring up the lackluster caravan system to begin with, and the lack of real faction interaction. It still feels today in vanilla that factions are more just set dressing than anything. None of your interactions with them really matter wholesale. It just changes the clothes that the raiders come in. Not even mods have really managed to give world factions any kind of interaction or personality, at least not in the way that factions are typically presented in quote unquote role playing or story based games. In vanilla, they pretty much only exist to determine who's raiding you at any given point. You can piss off every faction, like you're still gonna get traitors, like who fucking cares? I am in a way afraid that the DLC has kind of pulled another anomaly through, not to much of an extent, but where it's just a series of like unrelated quests and content that don't build on any foundation already present in Rimworld. And I think that is what made biotech ideology and royalty feel worth it to me, quote unquote. Every colony can interact with royalty, have psychasters. Every colony can have a belief system, have children in it. It directly affects the base game in a way that every colony is affected, that you will feel in every playthrough, while filling in gaps and core foundations the game already had to make it feel more whole or complete. Like, of course, my colonists can have children. They can already have relationships, and they're functional, sentient, biological humans and modified humans. Why wouldn't they be able to have kids? It makes sense. Ideology, of course, these people would have a system of belief. Every colony can build a different custom one. How cool is that? Of course we would find a way to fuck with the mechs. Why wouldn't we? They're just technology. They're already out there. Let's just bring one home. Fuck it. Then we get Anomaly, which does none of that, and is only worth playing if you actually want to make your colony a knockoff SCP Foundation. Which, if you don't want to do that, makes most of the entire mod completely fucking meaningless, aside from entire mod. Which makes most of the paid DLC completely fucking meaningless, aside from occasional random events that don't really do anything except harm your colony and slash or kill your colonists. Anomaly is the only DLC in the game that I have ever actually turned off. I don't think Odyssey's that bad, but what does Odyssey do for the unmodded base Rimworld experience? Some animals and biomes? It doesn't really affect the existing system of traveling and exploration beyond letting you skip to the theoretical end of what a traveling system should present you with. So to me, it doesn't build on any foundation. What do I have to look forwards to, right? Because I said I already know it. I haven't interacted with the greater DLC yet. So what do I have to look forward to when I get to that point of potentially abandoning my home colony that I've spent all this time working on and just being space nomads? Or do I constantly micromanage a graph ship and colony at the same time? I mean, that's not even really a big deal. You can play Rimworld with multiple colonies running at once. You know, it's more content, but I still don't know how to feel good about getting this technology minus the progression beyond the upgrades to the ship itself. There's no build up for it. And if there's no build up, it feels cheap. It doesn't feel earned. I mean, you can get your first Mechanator probably pretty early, but that doesn't mean that you're gonna roll out with like these fucking War Crane robots right out the gate. There's nothing below the spaceship. We get the best shit to start with, and then the rest of the quests are just upgrading the best shit that we already have. Like, what? How does this constitute as an update to the core foundation of the game to round out colonies and make it feel more complete? Because that's what I want. It does that. Is the actual content that the DLC has to offer implemented well? I mean, the things that the other DLCs bring, even Anomaly, is stuff we can interact with on day one. Every colony that I have could have children or xenotypes in it. Every colony I have has a monolith right there on the map. Every colony I have has that blown up mech thing. Every colony I have will inevitably have a system of ideology. Every colony I have could have a Psycaster and interact with the royal family, fucking whatever. These are all things that I can access fairly early into the game and then I build on later. That's the progression that I feel like Odyssey might be lacking. I don't even like Anomaly, but at least it has its own tech tree and events that you can face like early into your colony's existence if you choose to play that DLC and dive into it. So beyond the ship and Odyssey and new biomes, what do we have to do? What do we have to expect? Like I said, I haven't gotten to the fucking ship yet, so how long will it take before I can interact with the bulk of the DLC's content? How long until I get my graph ship? I both dislike the idea that I'm potentially gonna have to wait until, like, we are so well equipped enough to get to the Odyssey ship stuff, but then also dislike the idea that it will still feel like a shortcut and jumps to technology that my colony really shouldn't be able to interface with yet. So I don't want to start a colony and then get a spaceship a few days later. I also don't really want to start a colony and have to play it for years before I can interact with the bulk of a DLC's content, before I'm ready to face that. It feels kind of lopsided to me. I also don't really enjoy that I had to ruin my mod list, abandon my 1.5 colony that was going fine, and completely start over just for a DLC full of content that I may not even get to see in the first days, weeks of me playing the game on that new 1.6 colony with the DLC paid for and installed. The whole thing feels negative no matter how the cake is sliced, and I feel like we did not learn enough from Anomaly. The new DLC is a bundle of mods repackaged as paid content, so we're just, like, I have to say it, save our ship already existed. Save our ship. We're paying for what was previously free on the workshop to get a lesser version of it while waiting for mods to update to the new game version that we arguably didn't need. It's not all bad, it's not all bad. It loads up quicker, that's nice, but I'm just saying, the DLC is here. It's the 5th paid DLC that breaks mods and forces players to either stop playing or spend $25 on content they may not want just to keep their mods working. Core files change with every DLC release, crashing the modding scene and forcing mandatory purchases. And then mods, even if they don't specifically build on Odyssey content, may end up requiring the DLC anyways to function, and of course it's going to junt your favorite mod packs out of shape. Like I said, I like the progression mod pack. If I want to keep playing it, I have to have all the DLC, so I'm gonna buy Odyssey. Just to get the base game, it's $35, and that's fine. That's fair. Rimworld keeps you busy, It's worth $35, bare minimum. It's worth it. Then we have 3 DLCs totaling to $65. Ideology, Royalty, Biotech. And you know what? That's fine. These DLCs more than justify their price. I have put in enough hours to justify these DLCs' existence. But, you know, then if you want your mod list to work, you might have to drop another 25 bucks on Anomaly, which doesn't justify its price at all. Doesn't offer the same kind of foundational content with every colony you'll get in the last 3 DLCs. And then we have Odyssey, which is another 25 bucks this late into Rimworld's existence. So if you want the Rimworld experience, that's $150. I'm paying a total of $150 fucking dollars to have the ability to play Rimworld. And I'm going to pay more every single time a new DLC releases if I want my mods and mod packs that use content from the DLC. And you know what? That's fine. You know, whatever. My dad taught me to judge things based about $1 per hour. If I already have like fucking 300 hours on Steam alone, then, you know, I guess the game is paid for itself in terms of the entertainment and time that I get from playing it, not counting the time that I have to wait for it to boot up. But whatever, a $25 fucking pseudo-yearly subscription to keep playing Rimworld and stay up to date. I can handle that, I guess. But at some point, yes, it does get annoying. I have to wait for mod lists to update, for mods to update. I have to abandon my old colony, and ever since the DLC was announced, I spent like a month not playing the game, because why would I want to put more time into a colony that I'm just going to abandon for 1.6 anyways, right? It was, when the DLC got announced, it was such a shock to my fucking Rimworld hyper-focused neural system that it killed my special interest in my daily play. I just had to stop playing it. And now I'm back with my new colony, but that's just what happened. I just had to stop playing the game. It felt pointless. I mean, at some point, when do you just make a new game? How much DLC is Rimworld gonna get? Do I have to keep looking forward to these ham-fisted DLCs essentially forced on me if I want to keep playing the game? Now you could say, oh, just get the DLCs you want and install your own mods instead of using mod packs. To which I'm going to say, no, fuck you. My complaints are valid. This shit shouldn't be a problem in the first place. And it really wouldn't be a problem. I can handle it if the DLCs justify their cost and content. Anomaly absolutely didn't. It just didn't. Anomaly was bad. I don't like it. And you know, I haven't judged Odyssey in its entirety yet, but I can already say my piece and my existing issues with it and have those still be valid. The cycle of breaking mods with each DLC, requiring you to buy the new content and start over to keep playing how you want, it's frustrating and it's tiresome, and I don't want to keep doing it. So I don't know. The developer can do what he wants, he can hire who he wants, but we already had this experience more or less in Save Our Ship. It was more or less already an option in 1.5, now it's a DLC, and there is less to do and less content, but I still had to start over, and I'm still waiting on mods to update. So, I don't know, I guess my question at the end of the day is... Well, I guess my main point is two things. The first thing is that DLCs need to justify their price, and the easiest way to do that is to build on core foundations that the game already has. What if you come out with a DLC that adds Z levels that would completely change the fucking game? That'd be worth $25 alone. Let's do more foundational shit. How cool is that? Ideology is crazy, right? Why don't we have a DLC that gives them gives us a system of governance? I don't know. And then I guess the other thing is, when do you just make a new game? Like, normally, when games get support and stay supported, that's typically a good thing, right? But for a game like Rimworld, I feel like you can just, at some point, leave well enough alone. And maybe that sounds a bit delusional of me to say, because I'm just annoyed at having to wait through the DLC cycle. But at some point, for the kind of game that Rimworld is, when do you just make a new one? I don't know. Maybe he doesn't want to do that because he knows people are going to have to buy the DLC for Rimworld and put a little bit more money in his pocket. But at some point, I don't know. Alright, thanks for watching.
So I go. Our wills align.
Your team has destroyed a turret. An ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain.
With honor.
Double kill. An enemy has been slain. An ally has been slain.
Understood. It must be done. From the shadows.
Let your death.
Well, look at you. Shut down. Ace. Your team has destroyed a turret.
Without a sound.
Not here, not yet.
Enemy double kill. Aced. An enemy has been slain.
With balanced steps. Immediately. Enforce equilibrium.
has been slain.
Tread carefully.
Your team has destroyed a turret.
From the shadows.
An enemy has been slain.
There is no dispute.